When you record all your own background vocals, it's easy for them to start sounding mushy and not blended properly. So today we're going to take a look at a few steps you can take to properly record your vocals so that they blend together properly. One of the main functions of your lead vocal is that it's the lead sound of your song. The background vocals are in the background, just like your second and third and seventh vocal aren't your first vocal. Now, this is super obvious, of course, but it's important to be aware of this, because when you record your own background vocals, it's very easy to make them sound like your lead vocal. There's nothing sonically different about you compared to you, so it's very easy to create this kind of vocal mush of you. Here's an example. This is me singing a line. Burn a fire and hold the dark within, only prior, and so you too will win. See through my eye. And here it is again with a background choir. Burn a fire and hold the dark within, only prior, and so you too will win. See through my eyes. Now this sounds kind of unclear. The lead vocal lost its clarity, and the background vocals kind of weirdly rub into each other like a hot, crowded, pre-COVID subway in July. The reason this is happening is because of a few obvious and a few not so obvious reasons. First of all, I sing the lead vocal with quite a warm, bassy sound, but so is all the background vocals, so you get a big stack of bass frequencies. Every line articulates the words really loudly, and they're not articulated in the same timing. Every line has a differently timed and differently intensity vibrato, and they don't sync up, so you get a mush kind of there. Every line is sung with the same proximity effect, the same microphone. Then we get to the mixing, where all the voices are EQ'd and compressed the same way, but all the reverbs are different. So how can we fix this? Our baseline goal is to blend all your background vocals together and make them sound like a single instrument. And second of all, they need to support your lead vocal. Blend and support. Now there's a few steps to recording background vocals that influence how much your background vocals blend together and separate from your main vocal, and then second of all, help them support your main vocal. So we're going to take a look at this recording chain step by step. First of all, the chain of recording background vocals starts with the notes you choose to sing. Then there's you, the singer, with a voice and vocal technique and microphone technique as well. Then there's the equipment you use in terms of microphone, cables, interface, and so on and so on. And then there's the DAW where your recording ends up, where you can mix it. Now remember, these are all individual links in the chain, but they're all super interchangeable and combinable as well, depending on the sound you're going for. So let's look at ways different parts of this chain influence how your backing vocals blend together. Alright, composition. So this is where it all starts. So when I'm singing background vocals, I never sing the notes that my lead vocal does at the same time. Otherwise, your lead and your background start mushing together and it becomes quite unclear to hear which is which. An octave above or an octave below, that's fine. Or when you start all your voices on the same note and then slide them out of each other. But otherwise, I don't do that. Otherwise, your background vocal and your lead start mushing together and it becomes unclear to hear which is which. Keep the notes from your lead vocal and your background vocal separated. Now we can divide this in how you sing things and how you pronounce things. Let's start with pronunciation. The lead vocal provides you with clarity, subtlety, and articulation. So when it comes time to record your background vocals, be careful not to overpronounce all your consonants and be careful to time them correctly. So when I'm singing something like transatlantic banana boxes, and I'm singing transatlantic banana boxes 10 times for every single one of my background vocals, I have to nail the timing of all of those consonants exactly on every single take. Otherwise, it's going to sound a little blurry, a little mushy, and you're going to lose a lot of rhythm and definition in your background vocals. Especially S sounds are nasty because they start way before the beat actually hits. So, for example, I would sing stop, stop, stop. The length of that S and the buildup in volume of that S has to be perfectly timed and perfectly loud on every single take of your background vocal. Otherwise, once again, it's going to sound a little blurry. Especially S's, I dim them down or I give them a little fade in so that they're not that harsh and that their timing doesn't matter that much. A good rule of thumb, it's more important to nail your timing than it is to nail your pronunciation. because that's what your lead is for. And then there's the second part of vocal technique, which is how you sing. I'm talking all the flourishes you add to your lead vocals, such as vibrato, rubato, vocal riffs, sliding into notes, things like that. The same principle applies. Your lead vocal leads. It has to have clarity, subtlety, and articulation. Your background vocals have to blend together and sound like a single instrument. So whenever you're adding flourishes to your background vocals, they have to be exactly the same on every single take. So let's say you want to use vibrato in your background choir, you have to match the speed of each vibrato of each recording, otherwise it's not going to sound like one instrument having one vibrato. Same goes for if you want to have all your background voices slide into each other or slide to a note. You have to match the starting and stopping point of the slide of each recording, otherwise it's going to sound slightly mushy. Same goes for vocal riffs and same goes for rhythmic variations, you get the point. If you add flourishes to your background vocals, you're adding flourishes to your background instrument, so make sure they're the same in every single take. Because you're constantly recording your own voice, it's important to try to find any way to create differences between recordings. First up, let's start with mic positioning. If I sing my lead vocals very close to the microphone, I might sing my background vocals a lot further away. I can position my microphone in different ways. For example, I could put it in front of me, or I could tilt it up in an angle up front of me. Even just lifting the microphone up so it's pointed at my nose instead of my mouth is going to change the quality of my voice in a very subtle but noticeable way. I could tilt the microphone to the side so it has more of my cheekbone. A lot of these tiny changes can make a big difference in separation between your lead vocal and your background vocal. Then there's your microphone choice. Personally, I have a lower and fuller voice, and I want clarity and subtlety in my recordings. So I choose a microphone that captures that low end and brings me subtlety and clarity, such as this Neumann TLM 103. It's a condenser mic, and it picks up a lot of nuance in my voice. For background vocals, strength is in their numbers, so I don't need as much subtlety. I can go for a dynamic microphone, such as this Shure SM7B. In fact, too much subtlety in your background vocals might hinder you. A mouth makes sounds, so if you record yourself 20 times nuanced with all the mouth sounds there, it's gonna stack up and it's not going to sound that pretty. The way you position your belly changes the way you use your breath support and changes the way your voice resonates throughout your body. It's the difference between singing your lead vocal standing up and singing your background vocal sitting down on a chair or on a bar stool or on your knees or in a yoga pose. The recording process is a great moment in the chain to create subtle coloring differences in your voice. And when we get to the mixing phase, there are still many things we can do to shape the sound of one take. You could EQ different takes differently, you could compress them differently, or you could compress them the same way, but just using two different compressor plugins. I can't even name it all. The sky's the limit. I can't say anything else. However, I wouldn't go for different reverbs on different background takes because that's going to make them sound weirdly disjointed. Remember, you want to make them sound like one instrument and you want to make them blend together. So having one reverb for all your background vocals is going to have them live in the same virtual room. Now, every single one of these aspects is incredibly versatile, and finding solutions to one problem in different parts of the chain is going to give you very different results. Let me give you an example. Let's say I want to record background vocals without as much low end. I could just not sing the bass notes, or I could not sing the fifth note of every chord so that the chords are less structurally sound and there's no hint of a bassy undertone. I could choose to sing less low and more nasally so there's less bass in my voice. I could sing farther away from the microphone so it doesn't pick up as much bass frequency, or I could move it up and point it at my nose instead of my mouth so it doesn't pick up as much bass notes. I could use a microphone that picks up less low end, or I could use a microphone that has a bass roll-off filter. And then we get to the mixing where I could simply EQ the bass down or decrease the volume of my track slightly and boost the high end, so it kind of contrasts out. Or I could mix and match different points of this chain together to get different sounding results. At different points, you get different results, and they all feel and sound a different way. And the fun and challenge starts at mixing and matching these different aspects to get the sounds that you need. It's all about finding what sounds good and feels good for your songs, for your music, for your voice. I can't tell you which ones to use, but you can tell you because it's you who's writing the music. So follow your feeling. You'll find a way. See through my eyes, burn a fire and hold the dark within. Know you prior and so you too will win. See through